So today I have a horde of vampires, humans, and zombies to show you. Okay, today we have a deck that utilizing Command the Dead Horde to its fullest extent. This card is really nutty. I've seen it used with Wild Growth Walker tons, and the Explorer triggers keep bringing up your life total back from the brink of nothing when you use this card. So Command the Dead Horde is a 2-block, 4 generic spell sorcery. You choose any number of target creatures and or planeswalker cards in any graveyard. Command the Dead Horde deals damage to you equal to the total converted mana cost of those cards. Put them into the battlefield under your control. So this deck that I've built here is really good for recurring, bringing back stuff, and if you happen to go up against Super Friends or a few Planeswalkers, this card helps bring them back into play on your side of the field, so taking them away from your opponent. I'm also running Cruel Celebrant. It's a 1 black, 1 white, 1/2 vampire creature. When it or another creature or planeswalker you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life, you gain 1 life. So multiple ones of these on the board will create multiple triggers, so this is one way that we're going to gain a lot of life early on to use the Command the Dread Horde very efficiently. I'm also running 2 Finale of Eternity. It's a 2-block X spell sorcery. Destroy up to 3 target creatures with toughness X or less. If X is 10 or more, return all creature cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. I have not been able to get this up to the 12 mana required for that bonus. It could happen in a longer game, but these games haven't been overly long. I get about 6-7 land on the board, and the game pretty much wraps up fairly quickly. However, the destroy 3 target creatures is very nice. It paves the way for you to get through. I do run 1 Liliana in this deck. I do not feel you need more than 1. She is a niche card, very powerful, but the effect of her is not so great. Her being a 6 mana planeswalker too, you don't want to bog down the deck so much with a lot of these 6 mana planeswalkers, especially when we also have Command the Dread Horde in here. This is a 2-block, 4 generic, 6 loyalty Liliana. Whenever a creature you control dies, draw a card. Her +1 is you create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. -4 is each player sacrifices 2 creatures, which is very effective to get around indestructible and hexproof. That in itself is very nice. And -9, each opponent chooses a permanent they control of each permanent type and sacrifices a less. This also includes their land, so this is a very effective card, and that -9 is very devastating. I do run 1 Mastermind's Acquisition in here. It's just so I can get into my sideboard in case I run into trouble. This card is not needed. You could easily put in another card if you don't have any of these, or when you get into your sideboard, you can easily load it up with ones of something, and this allows that 1 extra thing. Or you can even use this to go get Liliana if it's later in the game. 4 Plague Crafters. This is an all-star when it comes to this current set. With all the planeswalkers out there, this card will, in a lot of times, I trade it with the planeswalker or the discarding a card with this deck because I've already ramped them down and gotten rid of their creatures or done fair trades. So this is a 3/2, 1 black, 2 generic creature. When it enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a creature or planeswalker. If they can't, they discard a card. I also finally found a really good spot for Priests of the Forgotten Gods. She is amazing in this deck, especially with the reoccurrence that happens with Command the Dead Horde and Sorin and Revival. Those 3 cards together is very nice. She's a 1 black, 1 generic, 1/2 human cleric. You tap her, you sacrifice 2 other creatures, then you target any number of players. They each lose 2 life, and they sacrifice a creature. Then you add 2 black mana and draw a card. So that card that you're going to draw is very nice. This deck kind of does get around that new Teferi, where everything you do is at sorcery speed. Well, everything in this deck is at sorcery speed, except for Priests of the Forgotten Gods. But if I remember, it's only to cast spells and not for effects. For Ravenous Chupacabras, they're an all-star in any black deck right now. They have been since it came out, and it's continuing to do work. It's a 2 black, 2 generic, 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, destroy target creature an opponent controls. Revival Revenge. This is a really nice card. I only wish the Chupacabra was 3 mana just so you could target it with this. However, everything else is 3 or less mana for the creatures. So on the revival part with the black-white hybrid mana of 2, return target creature with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. That is a really nice effect, and it's really nice to see that I found a place for this card. Then, if you also have 6 mana on the board, or if you have somewhere that you need to spend the 2 extra mana you get off from the Priestess, you can double your life total and half your opponent's life total for 6 mana, which is 1 black, 1 white, and 4 generic. That, if you're both at 20 life, that creates a 30-point life swing. You go to 40, they go to 10. It's devastating for the revenge side of this card. Another card in here that is, I absolutely love the picture, the art, everything about the new Sorin card. It's Sorin Vengeful Bloodlord. He's 1 black, 1 white, and 2 generic. Of course, we have 4 of them in here because we want them to be more often than not. When he enters, his anthem effect is creatures and planeswalkers get lifelink on their abilities, on their damage. It's huge. His +2 is he deals 1 damage to a player or planeswalker. Just note, if they do have hexproof going, you either have to target Sorin or yourself, so do be aware of that and take down those hexproof first before you start really pinging them down. He's a 4 loyalty to begin with, so if you want to just take the 1 point of damage to up him by 2, it's worth it. His -X ability is pace that much loyalty, bring back a creature with that much casting cost from the graveyard to the battlefield. So this is one way that I do bring back Chupacabra, Plaguecrafter, and other cards that are muchly needed here. I also run 4 Tithe Taker, which is a 1 white, 1 generic. It's a 2/1 human soldier. During your turn, spells your opponent's and abilities also cost 1 more, unless they're mana abilities. If this dies, it creates a 1/1 flying token. So not only does it replace itself from it dying, but it also makes it so it's harder for them to interrupt what you're doing, or it's going to cost them more. So this is a very nice spell and creature to put on the board. However, don't get caught on trying to keep this alive. Do sacrifice it when you need to, because it will come back. You can bring it back quite easily. I'm also running 3 Vraska's Finishers. This is normally what I would say just a limited card only. It's a 1 black and 2 generic. However, with the way this deck runs and with Sorin being able to do 1 point of damage to a planeswalker, Vraska's Finisher now can come in after that 1 point is done and kill that planeswalker straight up. You plus Sorin once, hit a planeswalker, cast this, now suddenly their planeswalker is gone. So this makes it very nice. It's one way to get your opponent's planeswalkers into the graveyard to be able to target them later with Command the Dread Horde. It's a 3/2, 1 black, 2 generic, When it enters the battlefield, destroy target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls that was dealt damage this turn. So this is kind of a cheaper Koopa Chabra, and that's why it's in there, but that restriction makes it almost unplayable. I do run 4 Godless Shrines, 4 Isolated Chapels, 6 Plains, and 8 Swamps. You could easily switch the Shrines and the Chapels out for Gates and the Forsaken Sanctuary white-black colored lands. For the sideboards, I have an Aid the Fallen in case you need to get Liliana back or something like that. Cleansing Nova, AD Spark, Ethereal Absolution is probably something you're going to target in your sideboard with the Masterminds quite often, especially if you're up against a token deck or a weenie deck. This will shut them down very effectively, and you can make more tokens for the Priestess to sack. Ixalan's Binding, if you're dealing with something that you just don't want to deal with, that you don't want them to have, like an Ashiok, this is a card that I would go for to pin down Ashiok very quickly. Kaya, of course, if you're low on life, this is one way to get life back. You start stripping their graveyard, and it still has a built-in win con within her. A Mortify, a Profane Procession, if you run into something that you maybe want to bring to your side of the board later on. This is something that you can go early on. A Settle the Wreckage, a Slaughter the Strong, a Spark Harvest, a Tessa Karloff. This is a card... It's a win more card. I don't main board it because of it being a win more card. If you need to close out a game very quickly, this is something that you might add in there with the Cruel Celebrants. Then it's going to create a lot more effects. Eldest Reborn, if you need to get rid of something, and if things are getting really delayed, that's another one you can go for. Unbreakable Formation, if you're running into problems keeping stuff on the board, you could easily go for this just to give it the indestructible. And in a Vraska's Contempt to deal with those pesky planeswalkers that you're just having problems with. Right now it's posting at about $125. You take out the Godless Shrines and the Isolated Chapel, you'll be in the budget zone under $100 quite easily. I hope you enjoyed that gameplay. I unfortunately didn't record it, but I did go up against the Super Friends deck with this, and it would have been epic to show you guys. I was not recording at the time. I was able to get a Command the Dread Horde down and take their new Bolus God, the other Bolus creature, a Teferi, and a bunch of creatures, and it was an insta-scoop, and it was a very, very good feeling against the control-heavy Planeswalker deck that I ended up against there. Unfortunately, I did not capture it for this video, which is too bad, but the videos I did capture, you know, it did not take me long to get a few wins racked up in here. Obviously, you do run into the odd thing of where you're getting mana flooded or mana screwed, and it just doesn't work properly. But for the videos that I did show you, that's pretty much how I feel the deck tends to run. It's a very effective deck, and I believe that this does have a competitive edge and will be able to rank me up quite quickly within the new season that we've just started. Anyway, guys, if you've liked this video, please let me know down below. If you have any further suggestions to maybe add to the deck, or if you want me to do a review on a deck tech other than something that I put out, let me know down below. And as always, hit that subscribe button to see more content from me. I do a live stream pretty much every night, and I do try to upload a video twice a week. Thank you, everyone, and have yourselves a great day.